joy, sorrow, reflection. Music has the power to elicit a range of emotions within our hearts and stir feelings in our soul. Musicians have carried the burden of helping societies put into words thoughts they can't explain. International singer and songwriter Dawn Yosias knows what it means to create lyrics that offer the language of love. On this episode of Heart to Heart, this London-born artist talks about finding love from her music. She also explains how love feels in different parts of the globe. Hey everybody, it's Byron Jamal. I'm so glad to be back with you today on Heart to Heart. I have the amazing opportunity to talk to Miss Dawn Yosias. Dawn, thank you so much for being on with me today. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. It's an absolute pleasure to be speaking with you and just being on here and sharing your platform for sure.
Oh, this is truly my joy. I get somebody from on the other side of the pond.
Right, exactly. However, I am actually living in Atlanta, so I want to make that clear.
That is big, but so let's jump right into that. What made you move from the great London to Atlanta?
Well, I actually, in the pursuit of music, I came here about almost 8 years ago. So really with just the mindset of pursuing music and Atlanta being a great hub for just really great talent and upcoming artists, I thought it'd be just ideal. And then on top of that, I had family, so a really good just jump start. So that was pretty much my mindset. Naturally, coming here and pursuing music and getting caught up with just life, I think that was the turning point. And I, of course, had started a family, and just that was now my new lifestyle. So yeah, pretty quick change there. And now it's about how do I still accomplish my dreams and what I set out to do with the family dynamic, and if that's possible, really just trying to weigh that out.
Absolutely. Look, whenever you add something new to your life, especially something big, it changes the trajectory of how things were going to go originally in your head. And that change can be challenging. How are you adapting to the changing life of a single to in a relationship and without kids and with kids? How do you transform into this space now that you're in? How has the transition been for you?
Well, I think it's good. It's been good for me. And I think really the most difficult part is you're evolving and you're trying to figure out yourself and what makes you happy. And growing up, I always had this idea of like having a family and children and them just being on the road with me. And I enjoyed that fantasy, but in real life, I'm starting to see that's not really what I would want. So it's more like, okay, well, how do I take advantage of like the online space and doing things my way in regards to my artistry, but then also still accomplishing the level of success that I want. So it's been difficult. Let's just sum it up to that. It's been difficult. And I think for a lot of mothers, I think we kind of get to this point, and fathers, I'm pretty sure, but society, especially with mothers being the ones that kind of we look to as, oh, well, of course, they're the ones that are going to take care of the child. It's almost like just, well, of course. It's never just, I feel like that's just the mindset that we have as a society. So naturally, I felt that it was my duty and my responsibility to kind of take a step back and now focus on just being a mother. And I'm not going to lie, it was very difficult. I was like, I'm not even that great at this. I don't think this is really my calling. No, I'm joking. But I did feel like, I'm sure like there's more to my life than motherhood, and a part of me feels guilty for saying that. But at the same time, a lot of times people get to this point where their children are all grown up and they're like, so who am I again? Like, what is it that I like to do? And I really don't want to be in that space. So I'm like, okay, let me try and have enough time to figure this out whilst I'm, being a mother and trying to take care of my children. So I don't, come to that point where I just don't know who I am and what I really desire in my life,
That's powerful to even be aware of, Because you're right. Many women especially get into that path and of having children, being a mom, and don't really evaluate what it means in the transition.
Right.
So the loss of identity is huge for a lot of moms as they take on the responsibility for another life.
Right.
The beautiful thing is that you're aware of it and that you can counteract some of those things. And let me just say, don't feel bad about saying that you also want to have a life outside of your family. That's a beautiful thing to have your own identity. You were born alone and you will go out of here alone, right? So at the end of it all, it's still your life to live. So that's a beautiful thing. I'm glad that you're aware of it because it will make sure that you can keep putting out good and necessary music. Like your EP, Love Notes. Tell me a little bit about the inspiration for that.
So Love Notes was actually, it was written over a course of maybe about a year and a half. So I wrote some of the songs when I was pregnant with twins. and then I wrote some songs prior to that. And so I think a lot of the time, pardon?
That's big.
Oh, right. I know. And so a lot of the songs, it's either it has, I feel like the tone of the EP is very transitioning. So like there's a lot of, I wouldn't say sorrow, but there's a lot of like unknown, like uncertainty. And I think that was just my headspace and my, you know, just where I was emotionally. And I think it comes out in the music. And so, yeah, there was a lot of uncertainty and just not really knowing and just being hopeful. Like a lot of the songs, it's like, I know I'm meant for bigger and better, you know, like, and I think some of the songs, I think two of the songs, those were more just me trying to, you know, kind of pep myself up, like a pep talk almost.
Yeah. What was one of those songs on there?
Diluted is one of those, like just reminding myself that, you know, you've kind of washed yourself out a little bit to try and, you know, fit into your new lifestyle and to your new dream. But, you know, you can still, you know, persevere and do what you want to do no matter what. And what was the other one? It's going to sound terrible, but I can't remember the other one.
What about, well, the one that I really got a chance to listen to and connected with was Miss Perfect. That one is really nice too. It talks about this person not having the perception that you are perfect, right?
Yeah, because I think when it comes to, see that I feel like a lot of times, especially with social media, we have this idea of who somebody is, you know, based on what they post and what they talk about, without really knowing that's like their best foot forward. Whole bunch of other stuff goes on behind the scenes. And so when we make decisions, it should be based on just what we, you know, how we perceive somebody or what we think is the way, you know. And I think with Miss Perfect, a lot of that comes out, you know, talking about, even if you, especially like a part of it is, you know, when you look at me as if I was the person, you know, you might see Miss Perfect, but really, that's just what I'm trying to show. I'm perfect over here, imperfections.
I understand.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and I think that, and that's just the bare truth of it is there's just so much that goes on behind scenes, and it is important to put your best foot forward. I think when I talk about, I always see myself as like, when I get to a point where I'm kind of low, the person that's giving me a pep talk is who I desire to be in the future. You know, like the person I'm really trying to be, I like imagine her. She's like, look, I'm you. I've got you. Like, you're already here. You just need to come to my level. I'm gonna take you.
We're already working this thing out. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Because there is also the other side to us. That is the, you know, pessimistic side that kind of just tells us and nags at us about the little things that we're doing wrong and you should do this better, or Yeah, you really think you look cute in that? You know, so there is that side to everybody as well. And I think that's where I'm trying to like just differentiate the voices and really, I sound like a loony, trying to differentiate the voices in my head.
Well, we all have voices in our head, trust me.
Right.
So, I was listening to someone, it was a guru. He said, if you try to tame your mind, often we say, control your mind, tame your mind. But if you try to tell your mind, don't think about monkeys, don't think about monkeys, don't think about monkeys, suddenly you will be thinking about every different kind of monkey out there.
Right.
Your mind, it really runs on its own steam. So trying to tame it is impossible. You end up working against it. So it's fine. All those voices are just fine out there. You mentioned something though. I really want to dive into your passion. Like, what motivates you behind all of those imperfections? What is the thing that drives you to put out the music and to do the vocal arranging and to write the songs? What is the passion behind it all?
I think it's just, my biggest passion right now is really just creating a lifestyle for my children and something that I can leave for them. And for me personally, music has always been something I've loved. I love expressing myself through my songs, and I'm not great at communicating. Like, my partner's always like, you communicate terribly. But I'm like, but I'll write a song about it. Right. And so, when it comes to communicating how I feel, a lot of it is through music. And I always want to tell my kids, like, whatever they really are passionate about, you can almost make money doing anything now, and especially if you're smart about it and you market it well and you figure that side out of it, like, then you're good to go. And so I want them to know that I pursued what I really wanted and succeeded at it, and have that as an example, if anything. And I think the way to do that is by showing them, this is what mommy's passionate about, and this is how I'm pursuing it. You know what I mean? And so originally it was just me being passionate about performing and being the star. Goodness, that was me. Always wanting to, make a statement.
Yeah.
And that changed once I had children, and now it's more just about just do what you love, and do it 100% and figure it out, and it'll get somewhere. You will be able to achieve it. So it's kind of just proving it and, leading by example, pretty much at this point. That's what me pursuing music is pretty much about right now.
Not this again, he got you broken. Don't call this love, no, this that poison. You let him in, you let him shout, and when he talked, you heard him out. Self-love, yeah, I can hang around. No, self-love, yeah, I can hang around. Yeah. Thinking about him, self-sabotage, stopping your path, changing your plans. You let him lead, you fell behind, stuck in your silence, you lost your mind. And I hope you found your self-love. I hope you found your self-love. I hope you found your self-love. I hope you found your self-love, self-love. Yeah, I can hang around. No, 'cause what do you do for me? What do you do? Self-love, yeah, I can hang around. Yeah, now self-love, yeah, I can hang around. I can hang around. What do you do for me? What do you do? What do you do for me? What do you do? Self-love, yeah, I can can hang around. Now, self-love, yeah. I can hang around. I can hang around.
I love that. What is your, if you were to define your style of music, what would it be?
You know, that's that's a difficult one. I think right now a lot of my songs are very like down tempo, and I think a lot of it is like alternative R&B, and I play a lot with like lo-fi kind of sounds, like that lo-fi hip hop sounds. So I don't stick to a very traditional R&B beat or a very poppy beat. But I do love to write to either or. But I think when it comes to my sounds, it is a very kind of low temp, like down tempo kind of lo-fi music. You know what I mean? Just kind of.
Yeah, I was liking it when I was listening to you. I was liking it to Corinne Bailey Rae.
Yeah.
She gives me a good vibe, like your feel, your vibe. Yeah.
No, thank you. Yeah, she's an amazing artist, so that's actually a big compliment.
She's one of those I can just hit play on and it'll work out.
Right. No, yeah, absolutely amazing. Yeah, and I think when it comes to, I was actually speaking to a mutual friend, Leslie Tops. You're familiar? Yeah.
That's the best PR out there, I know.
Right. And she, we were kind of just discussing where I was in regards to music. And a lot of the songs, even the songs on my EP, see, once you write to something, and especially when it's meant to, when it describes a certain time in your life, once you move on, you're kind of like, oh wait, I can't really relate to that anymore. That's why when you're like, what was the other song? I was like, don't know about that.
Yeah. It's like, what was that again?
Right. But it's almost like timestamps, you know, of your life. And so now when you're in a different headspace, your music slightly changes, you know, it changes. Yeah. And that's kind of like Mary J. Blige. Remember, she was going through the no drama stage. Yeah, no drama. And when I think her most popular time was when it was a whole bunch of drama, you know. So it's like, you know, yeah, your popularity changes based, I guess, on, you know, the kind of music you're putting out. But if you're putting out music that's true to you and your life, it's gonna change, you know. I'm hoping I get to the point where all my songs are like, yeah, let's have some fun. But right now it's like, we're gonna figure it out.
And that's okay to evolve with your music. I think that's healthy. I was telling someone earlier that we're the only creation out there that can evolve in a moment. You can literally make a new decision and live a different life if you so choose. You can quit the job tomorrow and start a whole new life, you know, and who else can do it? What other creation can do that, you know? So it's a beautiful thing to be able to do that and evolve with your music. Do you have a favorite artist that you like who has really touched and inspired you?
Yes. My forever love artist is Lauryn Hill. And an artist that I absolutely love now, who reminds me very much of Lauryn Hill, is H.E.R. Her. Absolutely love her too. So, and she reminds me very much of her.
Yes.
But I absolutely love like Jasmine Sullivan. I love Indiari. I love Jill Scott. These are just artists that growing up, that's the artist that I loved. And my sister actually, I don't even know if she really knows how much she influenced me, but she would always play Dean Martin and Ella Fitzgerald and those old time, you know, jazz artists. And it's something that I think naturally I took to in my vocals. So now my timing's all over the place. I sing like a jazz artist. They're like, okay, like you need to stick onto the hip hop beat.
Right. Two and a four. Come on.
And so that's something I've had to train myself, because growing up, that's I listened to that a lot. And so I think I took that with me vocally. But I've loved a range of artists from all different types of genres. I grew up also loving people like groups like Hanson Brothers, NSYNC, Backstreet Boys, Spice Girls. And so I have a very poppy side to it. So yeah, musically I'm all over the place, but I've always, in my music that I create, there's always been a consistent R&B soul in my vocals and in the songs. So that's why when I really think about myself as an artist, I would have to say like the alternative R&B pretty much genre. If I was to box myself in, that's the box I'd be in.
Well, that's not a bad one to be in. For you, what is music? What is music? When you think about what music is to you, what is it?
Music really for me is just another form of expressing yourself. And even if you were if somebody was to say, how do you feel? And you couldn't describe it, you literally just played a song, they'd get, this is how I'm feeling right now. And so I think it's such an amazing way, I mean, for us artists who actually create, but then also for people just to use as a way of expressing themselves and just finding out how they're feeling. You know, if you're kind of just feeling lost and you put on a song, it takes you to a certain place.
Yes.
And you kind of assess how you're feeling based on that. You know, whether you start bawling, crying, then you're like, okay, crap, something's up with me. You know, or if you're like, you know what, I'm ready to party, like, okay. You know, so I think it's a great way, just simply, if I was to just strip it down to what it meant for me, was just a great alternative and another way to express itself other than having to talk about it.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. I love the work you're doing, and I love how you're doing it. You have a lot of support at home as well. So tell me about how love works in your life.
Well, I have a fiance, a wonderful guy, and we've really grown together. I think when we started out dating, and we only dated for we barely dated, we would like go into like a relationship. But you know, I met him actually through Leslie. She'd kill me if I didn't mention that. She's like, I was the matchmaker there. But
come on, Leslie, matchmaker.
Yeah. And so when she introduced me to him, it was initially just to work together and to do music together, and that was the only agenda. And after meeting him, really just appreciated him and his time, and we kind of went our separate ways. And a year later, he actually got back in touch with me. And it was to discuss, you know, working together. But really, I think he was just like, I miss her. I miss my London connection.
He's like, that voice, it's the voice, yes.
Right. So yeah, I mean, he got back in touch with me, and we were just constantly communicating, and we really didn't stop talking. We just loved being in each other's space.
Wow.
And yeah, so it quickly turned from trying to work together to just being in a relationship together. And I think it was maybe a few weeks, and then he was like, "You just want to be my girlfriend?" Like, I think we work well together.
I like that. I like a brother like that. Come on, that's what I'm talking about.
And so that was that, and you know, we were still very early in just trying to figure out ourselves and what we wanted out of life. And I think, you know, looking back, and whenever I talk to my friends, I always say, they're like, oh, but you know, you've got it made, and you got your kids, and they feel like they've kind of, I guess, waited too long, and you know, they're, you know, pursuing their dreams, and then, but when would the family come? And a part of me, I get that, I do, but I also feel like it's like 10 times harder to figure yourself out when you've got a partner. Because now you're trying to figure out their stuff too.
Yeah, so my.
Yeah.
That is the truth.
Right. And so I think, I don't know, I would hate to say, just postpone and figure yourself out, because who knows how long that takes as well. Because I think we're always evolving and transitioning. But what I really mean is just try and be in a good space with yourself, so you're not relying on somebody else to fulfill that missing piece. Does that make sense? Because they just never will be able to. Yeah. And it's harder to figure that out when you're in a relationship. And I think that's what I feel like we've managed to do to some extent, but we're still trying to figure it out.
Yes.
And so love for me is really just a work in progress. When I was younger, I fantasized about that perfect love that you see in Disney music, movies and just movies in general. And I think in our relationship, it's been 7 years now. So I literally came in and got the relationship. But yeah, it's been a little over 7 years now. And so I've quickly had to realize that it's not about that. It's a lot of give and take, compromise, really just assessing that this is a choice. Do we want to do it or do we not? Making the commitment rather than it being this fantasy. And sometimes I get to that point, I'm like, I just want to do this and I just want to do that. And he's like, okay, but we're working towards something. Can we just slow down a little? Yeah. So I think it is really just give and take, and really understanding that my biggest lesson is really understanding that what I want from him is usually what I want for myself, from myself. Does that make sense? And I feel and that's been the hardest thing to swallow, because I always realize it too late. Once we've had an argument or something, I'm like, wait a minute. My self-awareness is you just messed that up. You better go back and apologize.
That is good.
Yeah, so there's a lot of that, and I think it's fine. I think some relationships are very hot and heavy, and so people make decisions really quickly. But if you're lucky to be in a relationship where you can both cool down and assess what just happened and how you feel about it, so you can kind of reconcile, then that's great. And sometimes it's just about being able to cool yourself down from your ego just being shattered.
That is a fact right there.
Right. So I think that's basically love in my life. Just a lot of figuring things out and how I feel about myself versus what I'm projecting and that stuff.
That's a beautiful space that you can occupy in your mind to understand it. A lot of people aren't even aware of that. And being aware of it allows you to really step into an open space where you can go back and say, hey, I might have mucked this up a little bit. So let me apologize. Let's redo this. Let's start over again. And let's try it over. And I think that's healthy. A lot of relationships last not because of how well they walk ahead. It's because of sometimes how well they can restart. So they can restart a conversation, restart an argument, restart, restart the day. Let's erase that and learn from it and move on. If you can do that, then you're in a good
yeah.
place.
Right. I'm hoping, I'm praying about it.
You got this. You got this. There's a little game I love to play, and all it involves is you giving a word or a phrase depending on what it requires. We're going to do that in just a second here. Let me pull up my little handy dandy notes here so I can make sure I have what I need. And all right, there we go. So I have a few things. We'll start easy. I'm going to start that over and we'll add this into the segment so it'll be nice and fun. All right, it's game time. Now, look, I have something fun we're going to do. It's called Questions and Answers. So here's what you're going to do. You're just going to give a one-word answer to any statement or phrase I give. So it's one word or a phrase that you will offer back. And let's give a quick example here for you so you can get a feel of how this goes. So if I were to say to you, I am from
London.
There you go. There you go. Right. You got it. All right. So just that easy. Okay. Let's get a little heavier. I'm in food heaven when I eat
pasta.
Oh, what kind of pasta do you like?
This is like truth or dare, because it's definitely not the truth. But it was the first thing that came to my mind. I was like, okay, pasta.
What is it really?
Right. Food heaven. Lasagna. I love lasagna. Yes. Lasagna. Not far off.
There is not much good about it for you, but it is so good to your soul. Oh my goodness. Let's try this one. I experience love when
I'm being embraced. Truly embraced.
That's good.
And when I mean embraced, I also just mean like if I'm able to really be open and somebody just hug me then. You know what I mean? Like once you're just like totally broken down. Yes,
open and vulnerable.
Right.
And, yeah, I love it. That is the only time when you really feel it. I agree. You have your guards up. I mean, what are you feeling but the actual physical touch?
Right.
You know? Yeah, so much more than that. That's good. I like that. I am living in my purpose when
I write something that I can't even say, but I can write it. You know, so when I really feel like I'm communicating how I'm feeling through my song, rather than just writing it because I want it to be a hit. Which sometimes I'm not gonna lie. Sometimes it's like, okay, let me just write something.
Let me get this hit out real quick, and I'll write the other ones.
Right, but then sometimes I write something, and I'm like, wow, I didn't even know I felt like that. You know, like when it really it translates. You know, and then you like, oh, okay. I might not know. I might not want hubby to see this one. Personal stash.
We're just gonna cover that up, right? Oh, I got that out. Yes.
Right. It's like a diary almost, you know. So.
Yeah, it is. Art is that way, and for a lot of artists, and I'm glad that you have an outlet. It's healthy to have an outlet, especially with a family. You need a way to escape and to share, especially if you don't want to share everything with everybody. Being able to share, which is good for the next question. I feel the presence of God, or whatever you define as your higher source. When?
You know, I'm not gonna lie, at my lowest points, like I think it's true what people say, like you don't think about God until you need him. It's just like, and I hate being that person, but I honestly have to say that before I actually moved here, my connection with God was so much greater. And to the point where I was like, everything is designed, you know, like even me moving here, like I got my green card so quick, like other than like normal people, you know, like wait like 7 to 9 years. I got mine like in 3 years, which is like a miracle. Wow. Yeah. And so even that, I was like, wow, this is destiny. And I think when I got here and there's so much was going on, and you kind of just get lost in pursuing a dream and really the spot, you know, like thinking about yourself, like I'm doing this and I'm creating this path, and it's like, girl, slow down. But you know, you kind of get that ego, and then also at your downtimes, you're like, you know, it was hard for me to reconnect because I was so distant for so long. Whereas before is you know, and having my father as well, when I was in London, he was very much like, let's go to church, always reminding me, let's go to church. Or
that's good.
Yeah, and you need that reminder. And here I didn't really have that. Like, you know, even my partner, he's not very, you know, consistent with that as well. So I think that doesn't help. So I'm definitely the force, like in my children's life. And I really wish I was doing better. And I think I've really got to learn how to communicate God's love to them. And I'm finding that a bit of a struggle. I mean, if you have any advice.
Well, one of the things that I did at the top of this year, just to reconnect, because I'm a former pastor, and I really believe in having what helps everybody do everything well, which is have a routine, right?
Right.
So in the morning, I've implemented just 10 minutes out of the day to really pause, especially in the morning, a great time to do it, to really center, do prayer, do meditation, something that's a spiritual practice that I can have in my life. I think what happens is with our spiritual life, we think it has to be this grand expression. Like you have to go to church, you have to, read, you got to pray for an hour, or you got to, you got to do something.
Right.
It can be very simple. It can be as simple as having a passage that you all read together every day. Something like my mom growing up, growing up, she would have her daily devotional at the kitchen table. But when I left the house, she would just send me one scripture every day. And that was her way of ensuring that I had a spiritual practice. And so even whether I read it or not, because I will be honest, I didn't always read it. If I read it, I glanced over it sometimes, right? But it helped me to learn that just that simple act can keep me focused on my spiritual life. So something that easy, it doesn't have to be anything major. Maybe you all get a whiteboard at the house or a chalkboard if you don't have one already. Just write one thing. It doesn't even have to be a Bible verse. It can just be a thought of the day that leads you to thinking about spiritual things. That can be just that simple, something that everybody can see together. And it can be a common family thing that you have or institute. But the best way to do it is not to just try to do something. It's to actually create a routine, something that's a part of your life.
Yeah, and that makes perfect sense. And I really like that. I think that's what I'm going to do. I think because with my eldest, he is 6 now, and I'm always, every now and then, I'm not going to say I always, every now and then I'd be like, how do you feel? God's always with you. And he's like, where? He's so literal. And,
yeah.
And,
yeah,
and I'm like, God's everywhere. I mean, and then a part of me just sounds crazy. So I'm like, okay, let me just figure how to communicate this better. But and I think when I grew up in an Orthodox Christian church, and it was always we were always forced to go to church and forced to pray, and so I don't want to do that to them. I don't want to force them in these environments.
Yes.
But I don't know if that's the reason why I had a connection with God, or if it was just, because that wasn't all. Once I grew up, once I became a teenager, we weren't forced to do anything, But I don't know if that was the essential ingredient to me having that connection with God. And if so, I need to hurry up and force this up.
Well, it's a toss-up, because there are a lot of people who are indoctrinated into religion and they don't stick with it. And then there's a lot of people that didn't have any religion and find it later and are deeply connected with their spiritual life. I think it's more about being aware or being taught that God is not all this as much as God is here. Because when you understand God is here, you can then, when you say, well, where is God? When your son says, well, where is God? You can say, well, it's here. God is here. It's that voice in you that's guiding you and leading you. So learning that is now, even though it sounds bad, more selfish in the sense that you can focus on self. You can really listen in and focus on who you are and what you need. That little voice that's saying don't go, or that little voice that says try it, or that little voice, really amplifying that voice. That is really the way to do that, instead of saying, well, out there in the galaxy above the clouds, it makes it more tangible.
Right. And it makes sense with the connection. You don't have to go out to find him. He's within you. Yeah. And that's very beautiful. Yeah. And that's something I'm going to have to just really communicate with him. So thanks for that tip.
Absolutely. Anytime. I'm here to help. Let's see. What artists can you listen to? Well, let me phrase it the right way. I got to do my game show right here. The favorite artist I can listen to on a rainy day is
Lauryn Hill. I can listen to anything. Rain or shine.
Come on, I'm here for it. The biggest obstacle to my peace is
Time.
Mm,
You know, when I feel like I'm running out of time, I start to be very frantic. I think it's just naturally that's the type of person I am. So I'm just like, oh well, I can do this, and I stop doing the things that if I had committed to would have gotten somewhere. You know what I mean? And I think a lot of people, especially in this day and age, we're so, you know, we have such short attention span, but we're like, okay, oh, we're gonna do this and this is gonna be great, and we like plan it out and we set these goals, and then when we feel like, oh, but it's, you know, time is running out and it's gonna take time to do this or whatever, we quickly change and we're like, okay, well this takes less time and I can do it like this, and it's just like, girl, before you know it, like 5 years passed and like none of those things.
that is it. You know, it's funny. Two apple tree seeds or two apple seeds could be planted beside each other, and the trees can be growing, literally planted at the same time and growing, and one sprout first and the other doesn't. And interestingly, those trees aren't concerned about time, they're concerned about growth. And I think that is a great lesson for us as humans, is to focus more on the growth factor. Who am I becoming in this? Because time doesn't really matter as much as who you're becoming in the process. What if I choose this, will I grow into a better version of myself? If I choose this, will I be more aware of my gifts and potential? I think that's a better way to look at it, that will take the anxiety away and help you make healthier choices.
100%. That's the honest truth. And I think I need to start looking at it that way, rather than feeling like it's me against time. Who's gonna win? Like
we all are in the same fight. If that's the case, we are all in the same fight against time. You know, we're all on a clock that's going to zero at some point. So you know, and that's a sad way to live, in the sense of always thinking about the end, which is the conclusion of a thing. Like, you don't start a book to get to the end, you start a book to enjoy the book.
Right, and 100%. And it's funny because I can't remember where I heard the phrase from, but it's what was the phrase? It's like you don't find, no, happiness is in the journey or something like that. You know, wait, happiness is not a destination. It's the journey.
Yes.
Yeah. And like, that's resonated with me so much over the last year, because it's always like my partner's always like, okay, so what do you think will make you happy? And it's like, okay, well then happiness is like the destination. And then I'm thinking about all these things that would make me happy. And it's like, would they make, I don't know, I haven't got to that destination yet. So
well, that's the thing.
Right.
Look at how many destinations you've reached and they did not bring happiness. Because if they brought the happiness, you'd be happy even without having to reach another destination.
Right.
So it says that destinations don't bring happiness. It is found in the journey. It's like my analogy to that is always the college student. You know, you have the college student that is enrolled, it applies and is enrolled and is sitting in their first class of their first semester as a freshman, their first course ever, and all they can do is think about getting their degree. They're sitting there and they're anxious because they're like, I just want my degree. I want my degree. I want my degree. And that whole time, in that whole class, their whole thought is not what's happening in the class. It's on the fact that they don't have the degree and they want the degree.
Right, and they missed the whole lesson.
They missed every lesson and they failed the course, and they end up having to take it over and over and over and over again because they so desperately want the end goal that they can't focus on the present moment. So really the joy is found in that present moment, that I'm in a class that is leading somewhere, that I'm sitting at a desk that is going to take me somewhere. I'm about to learn something that's going to be applied to something. It's going to make me grow into. So that's my analogy to that.
Yeah, and it's very true. It's very true. So it's not just about me like actually really like getting my mindset to think like that too. Like, you know, that being my mindset too. So it's been a shift. It's definitely been a shift.
Good. Well, you know, and that's the part about life. The beautiful thing about life is that we are going to keep on shifting. Like I said, over and over again, you can shift any second. So that's the beautiful thing about the human capacity. What about this? My spirit is replenished when I
go to church. I feel like, and it's funny because I used to be like, well, what's the point of going to church? But now just you saying that, that really is the only time I feel like I can start fresh. You know, and the thing is, actually, I've stopped going to church here because I found it very difficult to find a church that I resonate with and really like enjoyed without feeling like there was, you know, some sort of distraction and I think me not being in the church environment I grew up in is very different, you know. So I think that was part of the reason why I just didn't follow through with church. But when I really think about back in the day, every time I felt just lost and kind of just, you know, where is my life going? I would go to church and I would do the holy water and really like, you know, immerse myself, you know, for that 2 hours or 3 hours, whatever. And then I would feel so much better. And on my walk home, I'd just be like, new me.
You gotta do what brings you peace. I know that's right. You gotta do it.
Yeah, and that's I'm glad you asked that question because that just made me think. Actually, maybe it's about time we, like, as a family, start going to church and trying that. You know.
There you go. See, look, the heart to heart brings out some stuff every now and then. Well, I have to thank you again for being on. I would love for you to tell everybody where they can find you and what you're working on now.
Thank you so much. Yes. So you can find me on Instagram at Dawn Yosias. And so my first and last name. And what I'm working on now is just a small collection of songs. So probably another EP. And when that'll be out, I'm not entirely sure, but definitely this year. And in the meantime, I'll be dropping like little releases and little music videos just to kind of keep your attention, guys. Awesome. But actually, I did actually start something just a little while ago, and I've only got to the second episode actually, which is a songwriting sessions where I actually show people my songwriting process and how other singers can actually do the same thing, because you know how they can pretty much start writing their own songs without having to rely on somebody else to write it for them, and how they can find the beats and so on and so forth.
That's awesome.
And that's on my Instagram. So
that's so needed. So thank you for even having that as a resource for artists out there. Everybody make sure you go follow Dawn Yosias. And again, thank you for being on. This has been a great conversation. Thank you so much for your openness and vulnerability on the show today. And we're looking forward to hearing some of your music as well. So I'm looking forward to that. Yes.
Thank you, Byron. Yeah, absolute pleasure to be here. And thank you for having me. And yeah, definitely stay connected for sure.
For sure. Welcome to Atlanta. I know you've been here a while, but welcome to Atlanta. Anyway.
Yeah, welcome to Atlanta. I appreciate it. Thank you.
My pleasure. Have a beautiful day.
Thank you, and you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.